Most meeting planners will recognize this as a historic landmark for meetings in our country, spanning some 4 generations. But how do we honor the generations of the past and of the future? Well, we're about to find out. We've enlisted the help of a master meeting planner who's agreed to meet me here. If you're just joining us for the first time, this is a show for meeting planners and of course made with the help of master meeting planners. And one of those is joining me today, Heather Dow, who is the senior manager with Events and Management Plus Inc.
You got it.
Welcome and hello.
Thank you very much for having me.
Tell me a little bit about your company and what it is you do.
Well, the company's been around since the late 1980s. It started by Elizabeth Hooper. She's still the owner today. And she had a vision just to assist associations with their needs, membership, governance, finance, and of course their conference, and making sure they had an excellent conference opportunity for their delegates. So all these years later, we're now over 25 staff. We have a plethora of associations and events that we manage.
So a good amount of experience. We opened the show today at the Chateau Laurier, which of course spans 4 generations of meetings. And when it opened in June of 1912, a guest room cost $2. Now that was well over 100 years ago, but clearly times have changed. In your time as a meeting planner, how has the evolution, even in that span of time, been?
Well, see, that's an interesting question because in some places there's a significantly higher bedroom rate, but then in others, depending on the location, it's still very affordable. So it can range from $99 a night to $349 a night. It really all depends on the city and the hotel chain.
So we've heard from meeting planners from across the country, and they've told us that one of the biggest challenges of meeting planners is staying relevant, spanning generations. So if you're planning an event for a 20-year-old versus a 65-year-old, the programming, the types of presentations, the immersive experiences, everything that you're doing needs to be a little bit different. So how can you make everyone happy?
Well, see, that's a good question. And finding the balance is the key. Because we can think of great ideas that we would like to implement because it will assist the current generation, but the client may not want that. So how do you find that perfect balance? So when you say, let's do gamification in an app, but you're dealing with MDs who may not ever use an app in their career, and you're trying to implement gamification because that's what the current climate wants. How can you make that work? So right now that's a challenge, finding the perfect balance.
So we're not done with you quite yet. We're going to just do a quick breakout session and talk to some of your peers in the industry with a very interesting question. Take a look. You have a convention or a conference where there are 18-year-olds and 80-year-olds and everything in between. What's the one thing at that convention they're all going to love?
Networking, definitely, because I think the older people can learn from the young generation today, but definitely the young generation could learn from the old, like us, all the experience we have and everything.
The food? Possibly.
Food.
Yeah? Why?
Food brings everybody together.
I absolutely do think sharing ideas between generations and people from different ages will share, their ideas, and it's all about networking at the end of the day. So,
hopefully the food.
Food?
Yeah.
So you think 80-year-olds and 18-year-olds like the same food?
If it's delicious, I think it's intrinsic human emotion to just like good food.
And some very interesting responses from our streeters. So I'll ask you the same question. If we're planning an event, or there is an event 2 weeks from now, where there are everything from 18 to 80-year-olds, what's the one thing at that convention that everyone's going to love?
Oh boy, see, that's a tough question because I would like to think they love everything about the convention, but my guess is they're going to love the networking. That's going to be, I think, the most important part about the opportunity.
Have you had the opportunity to see really young people and really old people interact and network?
In one of my events that I run every year for the Canadian Association of Pathologists, you see just that. You see the entire generation. We've got pathologists who are 80 years old, and we've got our residents or our med students who are just getting into the industry. So how can we keep it exciting for all of them? The networking is key. We need to make sure that we have an app that is got all sorts of fun things in there that the younger generation can do as far as gaming, and they can tweet, and they can access LinkedIn and post on Instagram and do all that. And of course, you've got the 80-year-old who's watching that excitement, who's wanting to be part of it. And then they can chat, well, how do you do this? And we've got these people coming up to the registration desk who are in their 70s and saying, can you download this app? I want to get in, I want to do what they're doing.
What do you think is the biggest challenge in your industry right now?
The biggest challenge right now is because our associations are in Canada, the population is smaller than in the US. So we need a lot of meeting space, but our room block is quite small. And hotels are not as comfortable giving away all of their meeting space for a very small, affordable room block. And the big word that as an association, as an event planner, we don't like is attrition, because that's when you have to pay for rooms that nobody picked up, but you needed to get a big room block in order to access all the meeting space. So our challenge is finding the right venue to fit the size of our association when they need a lot of meeting space, but they don't need a big room block.
More than 70% of millennials, for instance, or the younger generation, are accessing Airbnbs,
Yep.
which is some argue is a big threat to the meetings industry.
Well, I'm not sure, because in many cases, there's demand, but there's no supply. If I were doing a big conference in Toronto, and it's happened before, where there's a number of large conferences in town that are using a lot of the bedrooms, the students then, or the medical students, can then rely on other sources like Airbnb to fit the need of providing rooms at an affordable rate. And they can also do shared accommodation. So I think there's actually a need for it in the industry right now.
So it's about not fighting the advancements, not fighting the
Exactly.
technology. So I get, especially from the types of events that you plan, that you have a great sense of relevancy. So how do you stay relevant in this industry?
You always have to think ahead. What will the client like to see, and what do they not know that they need? And that's, I think, key, because you don't know what you don't know until you know it. So it's keeping ahead so that the client sees that you're always doing things that will help them advance their mission and their vision, and keep delegates coming year after year. When they see new and exciting and innovative, you want that delegate to leave thinking, wow, this was the best conference ever, instead of saying, that conference was a lot like last year. So you have to read your Ignite magazine, you have to come to tete-a-tete, you have to visit all the booths and sit down with your industry partners and find out, what are you doing that's new in the industry? What research have you done that I can take advantage of? So when I sit down with them, they've already done the work for me. So tell me, what's new in the meeting industry that you're doing that I don't know about yet? And then I can put that into place so that my clients can benefit from it. I think that's my job. My job is to keep asking those questions and challenging industry.
And finally, just one last question. What is the greatest piece of advice you've ever been given?
Oh boy, oh boy. I don't know everything yet. I need to keep asking questions, and I need to recognize that there are mentors and there are people out there that I can draw experience from.
Well, thank you for being here. It's been a treat.
Well, thank you for having me.
And we encourage you to subscribe and share, of course. And if you have any comments, leave them for us. We'd love to get your feedback on what you'd like to see in an upcoming episode. Thank you for watching.